come back to this question of conflict of law situation. The QFC is based on what is essentially a English model legal infrastructure, and Qatar as a country operates probably on a hybrid, somewhat different model in that sense. So at which points are there conflicts that need to be resolved in what QFC is and what the country is?
Well, if you're a licensed firm, you operate under the QFC laws, and so there is no conflict. The only law we share with the state is the criminal law. So long as firms that are licensed by the QFC Regulatory Authority or by the QFC Authority.
There's only one financial regulatory authority.
Yes, well, there's only one financial regulatory authority for the QFC.
Right.
But if you are a licensed firm, for example, a Category 1 licensed firm, which is a full branch, you can conduct business in the Real. You can conduct business with counterparties in the state. And you don't come into conflict with Qatari law. Because remember, the QFC is a Qatari institution. Therefore, the QFC laws are Qatari laws.
So what do the domestic banks come under today?
The domestic banks in the main are licensed and regulated by the central bank. But what is important is that recently there's been a distinct trend towards many local banks and local shareholders, local investors are forming businesses, new businesses, under the QFC licenses. So in fact, 20% of the licenses granted by the QFC Regulatory Authority to regulated businesses are to Qatari-owned and Qatari-controlled businesses. So I go back to the very early comment I made about building capacity. We have created, or the government has created, a legal and regulatory construct that has brought capacity that the country used outside onshore. Most, if not all, firms that are licensed by the QFC have been doing business with Qatar for years. So now that capacity,
right,
new capacity is now being created by new local firms opening businesses within the QFC regulations.
Do you get into situations where you have to deal on a bilateral basis with other jurisdictions in order to create access?
The QFC Regulatory Authority is the organization that has MOUs with various regulators. For example, with the Chinese Regulatory Authority, because we now have ICBC, which has a full branch in Qatar.
Right, a full branch meaning that they have to be incorporated in Qatar under the QFC.
Well, it's a full branch. It is licensed by the QFC Regulatory Authority. It's a full branch and part of the ICBC.
Yeah, because the question I was going to come to is whose regulatory oversight do you acknowledge as a result?
The QFC regulator would be the sole regulator of the ICBC branch in Qatar, but through the MOU it has with the Chinese authorities, it would look to the Chinese authorities for oversight of the ICBC group. And through the MOU it has with China, and which it has with other regulators around the world, they would share information.
Do you see something having to happen in the Middle East for there to be a opportunity arbitrage in a way? If you look at Bermuda, for example, the opportunity arbitrage is very simply that insurance companies out of Europe prefer to be domiciled in Bermuda, where they take advantage of the more relaxed regulatory regime to do a global business basically.
Well, certainly we're not interested in having low standards. The QFC was set up in order to create high standards in the state of Qatar. The QFC Regulatory Authority sets very high standards for firms if they wish to be licensed. So we're not interested in attracting firms that see us as a tax haven, which we're not, because we have our own tax system. We're not interested in firms thinking that the QFC Regulatory Authorities are lax or allow any firm in. That is absolutely not the case. If you look at the list of firms that have been licensed by the QFC authority or by the Regulatory Authority, they are first-class firms. And that's what we're interested in.
Yeah.
We're interested in building a financial centre based upon quality, not quantity.
And there have been firms that you have rejected as a result.
We haven't rejected any firms. We talk to firms about the comprehensive nature of the licensing process and the standards that are expected. And a lot of firms feel that those standards are set too high for them. Many other firms feel that those standards are right and they wish to be part of a regime that has high standards. Hence we have 106 licenses and more in the pipeline.
Is there a process of encouraging specific types of business lines like fund management or Islamic finance? I guess the advisory part, you need a market in order to be, to be a financial institution that's actively involved in mergers and acquisition, for example. Are there businesses that naturally are going to work in your favor?
We're very interested in developing insurance. There's a lot of insurers who wish to be part of the QFC. We see that as a natural area for growth. We also see asset management as a natural area for growth. That's why, in fact, in the insurance sector, we set up Qatar Insurance Services recently, which is a unique electronic platform to allow insurers to lay off risk. We have a number of initiatives going forward that will encourage asset managers and more insurance firms to come. One of which is the creation of a new Finance and Business Academy, which was launched last week, which is designed to build training and accreditation for people working in the financial services sector in Qatar.
And this is part of the QFC?
It's part of the QFC.
Okay.
One of the prime aims, again, in building capacity in Qatar and for Qatar, is to build human capacity, build intellectual capacity. And so the QFBA, the Qatar Finance and Business Academy, was set up, and it will be open for business in October this year.
How has some of the Western initiatives to prevent tax havens and also the EU's initiative to require greater know your customer regulation in place affecting your business?
Well, I think the initiatives are very good. Firstly, it's what the international market requires, but it draws attention to the fact that the QFC is not an offshore centre. It's not a tax haven either. We have our own tax laws. We have a flat tax of 10% levied on locally sourced income. The tax rules and regulations have been out for public consultation. They have been approved by the board of the QFC. The regulations have been commented upon by a number of international tax practices. So we have a 10% rate, as I mentioned. That rate is in line with EU principles. And so firms coming and operating from the QFC expect to pay tax. It's certainly not a deterrent.
So finally, in terms of the work that you're doing to build the QFC, what are the next 2 or 3 milestones that we would like to put our finger on and review when we visit you again?
One of the principal ones is the success, I think, of the Qatar Finance and Business Academy. Another one will be the growth of the Qatar Insurance Services, how that's developed, how many participants we have in that platform. Also, how the insurance sector has grown, and I think latterly how the asset management business has developed.
Stuart, thank you very much for spending time with us.
Thank you.